At my wedding reception, my mom stood up and said, "I have a surprise, your dress was bought with my credit card, so you owe me." Everyone laughed, but then she pulled out a bill and said, "Pay me now, or I'll make the DJ stop the music." My dad's best friend stood up and said, "Actually, that's not how this works." What he said next made my mom scream. I should have known something would go wrong at my wedding. I expected my mom to cause trouble, but even with all the signs, I wasn't ready for what happened at my own reception. The evening was going well, we were halfway through dinner, people were dancing, and it felt like everything was perfect. Then my mom stood up. She tapped her champagne glass with a spoon, smiling as if she was about to give a sweet toast. The music quieted, and people turned to listen. But instead of a toast, she said, "I have a surprise." My husband tensed up beside me, and I wanted to say something, but before I could, another voice spoke up. "Actually, that's not how this works." It was Walter, my dad's best friend. Walter was a quiet lawyer who had known my family for years. He also hated my mom because he never let her get away with anything. He stood up calmly and said, "You want her to pay for the dress? Let's talk about that." My mom scoffed and said, "I paid for it, she owes me." Walter looked at her like she was being childish. "Actually, I have some information that changes everything." He pulled out a stack of papers, more than just a bill, and slowly flipped through them. When he finally looked up at my mom, he said, "Let's talk about that credit card you used." My mom crossed her arms. "There's nothing to talk about." Walter smiled a little. "Oh, there's plenty. The card you used to buy the dress? It wasn't yours." The room gasped. My mom's face changed. "What are you talking about?" Walter stepped forward and said, "The card you used was your ex-husband's, my best friend's card." He turned to my dad, who had been watching quietly. "You never closed the account, right?" My dad shook his head. "Nope." Walter turned back to my mom. "So, technically, it wasn't your money to spend." My mom's face went pale. She tried to say something but stopped. Walter continued, "You used a credit card still linked to your ex-husband's account to buy the dress, and now you want to get paid back? That's not just wrong, it's fraud." The room was silent. Someone nearby whistled. My mom looked around, searching for a way out, but Walter wasn't done yet. "Oh, and there's more," Walter said, pulling out another paper and waving it. "When I saw your little stunt just now, I decided to look into some things, like your credit history." My mom stepped back, looking shocked. "You had no right," she yelled. Walter ignored her. "Turns out, you've been using that same card for a lot more than just the dress," he said, smirking. "Want to guess how much?" My mom opened her mouth, but no words came out. Walter answered for her, "Over $15,000. The room went wild. People gasped, whispered, and stared at her in disbelief. My mom screamed, "You had no right to dig into my personal business." "Fraud," Walter interrupted. "That's the word you're looking for." I turned to my dad, still too stunned to speak. He looked at Walter, then at my mom, and laughed, a deep, genuine laugh. "You know what?" he said, shaking his head. "I was going to let you keep digging your own grave, but now," he leaned in, "I think I'll press charges." My mom's eyes nearly popped out. "You wouldn't dare." Dad smiled. "Watch me." She lost it. She started screaming at Walter, my dad, me, my husband, anyone who would listen, but no one was listening anymore. The DJ, looking awkward, leaned over to me. Should I keep playing?" I took a deep breath, straightened up, and said, "Turn it up." And just like that, the music drowned out my mom's yelling. She stormed out, still screaming, but no one followed her. I turned back to my husband, who squeezed my hand and grinned. "Guess we're off to an interesting start." I laughed. "Oh, you have no idea." And with that, I danced the night away, finally feeling like my mom had no power over me. Even with the music blasting, I could still hear her muffled screams from outside. She was furious, but for the first time, she had no control. Or so I thought. About 10 minutes later, one of the catering staff came up to me, looking worried. "Ma'am," she whispered, glancing nervously at the door, "there's an issue outside." I frowned. "What kind of issue?" She hesitated, then leaned in. "Your mother is calling the police." I couldn't believe it. "Are you serious?" Walter grinned. "Calling the cops on herself?" The staff member nodded. "She's saying you all stole from her." I was livid. Dad rolled his eyes. "Fine, let's go deal with this." We stepped outside, and there she was, standing on the sidewalk, phone in hand, yelling into it like a crazy person. A few guests had stepped outside, watching and whispering. "She's really doing this," someone muttered. Then, the police cars showed up, lights flashing. 2 officers got out and looked around. My mom ran up to them. "Officers, thank God you're here, I need to report a crime." One of the officers, a tired-looking middle-aged guy, sighed. "All right, ma'am, What's the issue? My ex-husband, she pointed at my dad, and his lawyer friend here have been stealing from me for years. Walter just laughed. Oh, this is rich. She turned to the officers, and my ungrateful daughter, she pointed at me, is refusing to pay me for the wedding dress. I bought the dress with my own money. One officer blinked. Wait, you called us for a wedding dress? Before my mom could keep talking, Walter stepped in. Officers, let me make this simple. He handed over the documents he had pulled out earlier. She used a credit card that wasn't hers to buy a dress, and over $115,000 in other charges. This isn't theft, this is fraud. The officers read the papers. The moment they understood, their whole attitude changed. One of them, a younger officer, looked at my mom. Ma'am, is this true? My mom's eyes shifted between us. I didn't steal anything. That card has my name on it. Walter nodded. It does, but the account? Not yours. The officer turned to my dad. Sir, do you want to press charges? Dad didn't hesitate. Yes. My mom's face went white. What? No, this isn't fair. He's my ex-husband. I was entitled to that money. The younger officer sighed. Ma'am, that's not how this works. She shook with fury. This is all your fault. She screamed at me. I gave you everything, and this is how you repay me. I crossed my arms. You tried to blackmail me at my wedding. She lunged at me, but the older officer stepped in front of her. Ma'am, I think it's time to leave. She screamed in frustration, but she knew she was cornered. Turning to my dad, she hissed like an animal. You'll regret this. Dad smirked. Pretty sure I won't. She stormed off into the night, still yelling, but no one followed her. The fraud case. You'd think that was the end, right? That she'd accept her loss and move on? Nope. A few days later, my dad got a call from his bank. It turned out my mom had been opening credit cards in his name for years. Walter, being the amazing lawyer he is, helped my dad go through everything. What they found: over $40,000 in fraudulent charges, luxury vacations, designer clothes, expensive restaurants. She had been living off my dad's name for nearly a decade, and now, she was going to pay for it. We filed charges, big ones: identity theft, fraud, unauthorized use of a credit card, the whole deal. And the best part? She never saw it coming. A few weeks later, while she was in a boutique trying to buy another overpriced handbag, the police showed up. She was arrested right there. Her trial was a disaster. She cried in court, blamed everyone but herself, and claimed she was the real victim, but the judge saw through her lies. She was convicted, and had to pay back every single dollar. Just like that, she lost everything. Her fancy lifestyle? Gone. Her reputation? Destroyed. Her power over me? Completely gone. Final thoughts. That was 2 years ago. She still tries to contact me sometimes, but I don't respond. She tried to guilt-trip family members, but after everything, no one wants anything to do with her. As for my dad, he's free now. He's traveling and living his best life. And me? I'm happy, happily married, drama-free, and knowing that my mom can never manipulate me again, that's the best gift I could have ever gotten. Even after everything? Even after her arrest and fraud conviction, my mom still wouldn't let go. She blamed me for everything. She told anyone who would listen that I set her up and was an ungrateful daughter who betrayed her own mother. But the truth? She was finally facing the consequences of her own actions. Her last desperate move. At first, I thought she'd disappear after the trial, lay low, maybe leave town. Nope. Instead, she did what she always did, tried to manipulate her way out. Since she was broke and her credit was ruined, she couldn't afford her old lifestyle anymore. So, what did she do? She tried to take my dad's house. The house they used to share before the divorce, the house my dad had fully paid for on his own. She found some shady lawyer and tried to claim that because they had once been married, she was entitled to it. Mind you, she hadn't lived there for years. She had no legal claim. No rights to it whatsoever. But that didn't stop her. She filed a lawsuit, claiming my dad owed her spousal compensation for the life she had lost. Unbelievable. By this point, I was completely done with her games, so was my dad. And Walter? Walter was loving it. He was thrilled to take her down. He dug up every bit of dirt on her financial history, every fraudulent charge, every lie she had told to banks and credit card companies. He countersued her so fast she didn't have a chance to react. And then? We went after everything. We blocked her from making any more financial claims against my dad. We had the court freeze her remaining assets so she couldn't move money around. The best part? Walter notified the banks she'd defrauded, and they started coming for her too. One by one, the creditors sued her. One by one, she lost. And within 6 months? She had nothing left. Her bank accounts? Empty, to pay legal fees. Her car? Repossessed. Her apartment? Evicted. She tried to beg for help, but no one wanted anything to do with her, not her family, not her old friends, no one. The final conversation. The last time I saw her, she showed up at my doorstep, looking completely different. She had lost weight. Her hair was a mess. She wasn't wearing her expensive clothes anymore. For the first time in my life, she looked powerless. She stared at me for a long time before speaking. I lost everything, she said quietly. I have nowhere to go. I crossed my arms. That's not my problem. She swallowed hard. I'm your mother. No, I said, shaking my head. You were a tyrant, a manipulator, a thief. She flinched. I made mistakes. You tried to ruin my wedding. I interrupted. You stole from Dad for years, and when you finally got caught, you blamed everyone but yourself. Her eyes filled with tears. I didn't care. You burned every bridge, I said. You did this to yourself. She looked like she wanted to argue, to throw another insult, to guilt-trip me one last time. But there was nothing left to say. She turned and walked away. I didn't stop her. I never saw her again. Where we are now. It's been 5 years since that day. My dad? He's doing great, traveling, fishing, enjoying life without my mother's shadow hanging over him. Walter? He still laughs about the whole thing, says it was one of the easiest cases of his career. And me? I have a beautiful family now. My husband and I just bought our first home. We have peace. My mother? Last I heard, she was living in a tiny apartment, working a low-paying job, still blaming the world for what happened. But I don't think about her much anymore. Because for the first time in my life, I am truly free. And that's the best revenge of all.